We have talked about T-Display and LVGL library before, but that hardware did not have touch interface capability. In this video, we are going to talk about T-RGB round display that has capacitive touch interface and larger display. Of course, more features come with complex hardware to deal with. So let's cover that and play with GIF files using LVGL library. We have a lot to display today, so without any further ado, let's jump on in. This video is sponsored by PCB. I've personally used their services to produce my own prototype for future IoT projects. Ordering your own PCB has never been easier before, with a lot of features like this castellated holes that I've used. Recently, they have upgraded their FR4TG standard to have even better quality with the same price. Alright, so here's the T-RGB rounded display from Lilygo. It has ESP32S3 with RGB LCD. Let's open the box and analyze the hardware. Okay. So here you can see the MCU ESP32S3, right? And here we have the NOR flash memory. I suppose that it has 16 megabytes of flash. Here we have SD card connector. This is I2C bus connector. And here we have Type-C USB. This is 16-bit pin expander. We are going to analyze the schematic of this board in order to see the reason behind using this chip. It has also a LiPo battery charging circuitry over here, and there's the LiPo battery connector. So let's power this up and see the quality of the display. Alright, so here we can see the resolution of the screen is quite high. Let me remove the screen protector so we have a better view. Oh, so yes, as you can see here we have the ESP32S3. The board has 8 megabytes. So as we can see, the PS RAM is 8 megabytes, and it has a flash of 16 megabytes as well. We have the CPU frequency is 240 megahertz, and I think we have an ADC is reading the voltage of the board. And of course, this board has a touch panel. So as you can see, it detects the coordinates of the place that I'm touching. Yes. So currently it's searching for this network. It's from the manufacturer. So as you can see here, it also measures the storage of the SD card that I have plugged over here. So what I've done is that I've modified the SSID and the password from the factory firmware and load it to the development kit that we have here in order to let it connect to my network, and it turns out that nothing happens when it's connected to Wi-Fi. So what I've done here, so I modified the factory firmware again and let it play a GIF. As you can see, once it's connected to a Wi-Fi, I suppose that this is the way of saying hello world using LVGL library. Alright, so in this GIF, I wanted to show the colors that this screen is capable of demonstrating. As you can see here, the display is 16-bit color. So this GIF we have here is showing the Ethereum symbol for all the cryptocurrency moon boys. Ethereum price is going to the moon sooner or later. Alright, so here's the schematic of the T-RGB development board. Here we can see the MCU that they are using, ESP32S3 R8, which means that the MCU has 8 megabytes internal SRAM. And here we have the NOR flash. It has 16 megabytes of flash memory. So here is the circuitry of the MCU regarding the RF impedance matching circuit and bypass filters. Here of course we have the 40 megahertz crystal for the MCU. These are the button circuits, and here we have the SD card socket circuitry. So here we have an LED driver that allows the MCU to derive the backlight of the LCD. So here we have the LCD connector and more peripherals. So we have here the backlight pins, the LCD reset, and we have here the LCD I2C lines for sending commands to the display. And of course we have the vertical and horizontal synchronization pins, and here are the 18 data pins for parallel interface, and here we have the touch panel related pins. We have the reset and the I2C lines, and here we have the touch panel interrupt pin, because in the T-RGB hardware we have the capacitive touching panel. It's placed on the top of the LCD that we have, so they are separate hardware that we need to deal with. So as you can see, there are a lot of peripherals that the MCU needs to derive. However, there are not enough pins to use. So that's why in the I2C line, we have it connected to this pin expander. And here we have this pin expander is even deriving the I2C lines of the LCD. We have the LCD chip select and the SD card chip select pin as well. So we need to take care of this inside our firmware and build it according to that. Here we have the power related circuits. I think this is all regarding the firmware that we need to cover. We have here the USB to UART converter. That's used, of course, to load the firmware to our development board. So now let's have a look at the factory firmware and see what's used over there. Alright, so here's the Arduino firmware that is loaded to the T-RGB development board. I won't be going through it in details because I'm going to build my own firmware anyways, and at that time we will going to discuss everything in details. But here I wanted to show you the components that are used, and here we have the XL9535 driver for the pin expander that we have seen in the schematic, and here we have the FT3267 which is the touch panel. So if we go to Google and search for that, we can see this touch panel. So let's get back to the firmware. Here we have the LCD commands that are sent to it over I2C lines. These are the GIF files that I've included in order to play them at the end of the initialization and Wi-Fi connection procedure. Here we have the LCD related configuration. As I have said before, I will be going through this in details when I build my own firmware using esp-idf. As you all know, I'm not a fan of Arduino, so I'm not going through this in details, but here I want to show you the parts that I have added in order to play the GIF file, which is related to LVGL library, and we have it right over here. So here I have initialized the object, created a GIF file, and then placed it at the center of the display, and here I have passed the address of the GIF file, which is the Ethereum symbol in this case, and after executing this line, the GIF will be shown on the display. This brings me to the end of this video. If you have learned something new, please like the video and share it among your friends and tell them about useful electronics, and consider supporting me on Patreon to keep such videos coming. Stay tuned and bye bye.